big welcome to everyone for our webinar this morning on Koh Samui, Thailand, where we will go, I promise, next year in January of 2023. So without further ado, I'll just do a quick intro in case anyone is not familiar with who I am or what this is all about. My name is Gordon. That's me there. That is a picture that's taken here in the beautiful island of Madeira. And I am all about travel and about bringing people from all across Canada on fantastic trips to places like Madeira, like Koh Samui, Thailand, which is what we're talking about today. And so this is what my life has been all about. I've been bringing Canadians on trips all around the world for the better part of 30 years. In the last few years with the community of Wheel and Anchor. What that's all about, of course, is bringing travelers together. And, you know, it's been 2 years since we were able to travel, and yet the spirit of what this is all about hasn't changed a bit. And I noticed the moment everybody arrived here, how certainly happy they were to be out in the world again, despite all of the stuff that's going on out there, and to be meeting other people. And, you know, we're barely a week in, and it seems like everybody's made friends. And, you know, we've set up these unique messaging groups about going for dinner. And I was just seeing a message now, they're all planning to go to a football game here in Portugal. And this is part of what it's all about, is just meeting people that have a like-minded sense of adventure, of traveling around the world and doing fun things. And that's what Wheel and Anchor is all about, and what we do on our trips, whether they're LiveAways or other kinds of trips. The team that helps me in put all this together, part of the team anyway, is me, Gordon, as the founder of Wheel and Anchor, and my partner in crime, Joel, who is our co-founder and provides technical support, as well as Paula, who is on holiday today, a much needed break. And she is the one that many of you will have spoken with on the phone. She is our senior trip specialist and does all the front end work and deals with all of the logistics for getting you on our trips. And of course, that is a big job these days with all the changes in travel. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to take you on a little journey, because you're interested in a LiveAway, getting away for the winter to someplace different, exotic. This is certainly exotic. I'm going to take you on this digital virtual journey today to Koh Samui, where we will be headed next year in January. Let me tell you a little bit about the idea of what LiveAways are all about, just briefly. I think many of you know this already, but it's basically a long stay holiday that is much more than that. It's long stay plus plus. Because why? First of all, the idea here is that we bring our community of Wheel and Anchor of travelers to new communities like Madeira, like Cyprus, like Malta next year, like Koh Samui, like Bali, like all these places. And in doing so, by facilitating a whole array of activities and excursions, but also the ability to just do your own thing. So you're together with a group, but at the same time, you feel like you're on your own vacation, because you can do as much socializing with other members of Wheel and Anchor or with other visitors and travelers to the places that we go, or with the locals, because that's partly what's important to us about the experience. And so it's a longer stay away with the flexibility of as if you were traveling on your own, but at the same time organized. You've got people you can come and have dinner with, get together with for drinks, go to the beach, go on long walks. And so you share the fun of an experience with the community. So that is the idea. And one of the new things that we're going to be introducing that we sort of did this year already, but was kind of by coincidence, is we're linking these programs together. So next year in Southeast Asia, we will do 4 weeks in Koh Samui, Thailand. We will follow that up with 4 weeks in Bali, Indonesia. And we'll talk about Bali on the webinar next week. And then we'll have 4 weeks on in New Zealand, 2 weeks on the North Island and 2 weeks on the South Island. So in theory, you could go away for the entire winter, from January all the way into April. You could be away in Southeast Asia. It's a long journey, let's face it. And so this is one way you could capture a lot of the world on one LiveAway, but you can also do it in bits. And so I'll get to that later on. But again, this is the idea, is that we take time to get to know the places that we're going, because we're not in a rush. We're there for a longer period of time. So let's get into talking a little bit about Koh Samui, what the program is about. And incidentally, this shot here is taken from the beach that is quite close to where our hotel is, and it looks north across the Gulf of Thailand to Koh Phangan. For those of you that know me a little better, that's the island that I actually live on. It's that beautiful island that you see in the distance, and it'll be one of the things that we visit on our during our stay in Koh Samui. Let's do the geography lesson now, so you have a little bit of an idea of the logistics. So first of all, Thailand in Southeast Asia. You can see on the inset map to the left, a part of Thailand. So Thailand is a big landmass in the north that's part of the Asian continent, of course, and then a long, narrow isthmus with Myanmar on the west side of it that's in white, and Malaysia is to the south. And then in the Gulf of Thailand, so Thailand has on the east coast has the Andaman Sea, the Indian Ocean. That's where you'll find the destinations like Phuket, for example, which is the most well-known and the biggest tourist island in Thailand. And then on the east side in the Gulf of Thailand, you find a little archipelago of which Koh Samui, where we're headed, is the largest of 3 islands. The next one being Koh Phangan, where I live just to the north, and then a smaller one called Koh Tao, which is the diving capital of Thailand. And then there's a whole bunch of other islands around that. So looking at Koh Samui itself, you see it there, again, the large map. Koh Samui is a little bit smaller than the island of Antigua. So if you've been to Antigua in the Caribbean, it gives you a sense of the size of it. You can drive all the way around in about an hour and a half. The coast of the island is mostly white sandy beaches. The middle of the island is mountains, not super high mountains, maybe 600-700 meters. And just to give you a sense of what's sort of on the island, the area where we're staying, where you see hotel on the map, this is the area called Bang Rak. This whole northeastern part of the island is sort of the busiest part of the island. The airport is not far away, about 10 minutes away. Bang Rak Beach, Mai Nam Beach, Chaweng, which is the most famous beach in Koh Samui, beautiful soft white sand beach, is about 10 minutes away by taxi. So we are in the center of everything. And at the same time, we're actually in a sort of a little neighborhood that's off the main roads, about a 10-minute walk from the beach. So you're close to everything, and yet you're in a pretty quiet location, which makes it pretty special. Again, I just want to take a step back, talk about Thailand as a whole. The country is about half the size of the province of Ontario in total. Just again, to give you a sense of the dimensions, the population is 70 million. So it's double the size of Canada. So, it gives you a sense. It's relatively densely populated, but most of the population live in the greater Bangkok area, and then in, a few other cities that are strewn around the country. While I'm on this slide, just one more second, because I know some people have a question about logistics. How do we get there? So you can get to Koh Samui basically a couple of different ways. The most frequent flights to the island are from Bangkok right to Koh Samui, right to the airport that's on the map there. And Bangkok has connections, none directly from Canada, unfortunately, but you can fly via Hong Kong, via Tokyo, via Taipei, via Seoul. There's a number of different ways to fly over. Now, I know some members who are already anticipating this trip ask me, but when I look right now at flights to Thailand, it doesn't look like there's very many, and the times are really bad. Because of the coronavirus situation, a lot of the flights aren't operating that were operating before COVID. So keep that in mind, that if you look at flights right now, it's not going to give you the full picture once schedules resume. And I believe they will in the next 6 months. We'll see all those trans-Pacific routes that were that existed prior to COVID will gradually come back into place, and all the routes will be there. So don't fret too much about looking into airfare now, because the whole picture isn't clear. Let's now talk a little bit about the accommodation, because let's face it, we're going to be staying here for a whole month. I searched high and low to find the right type of place that suits the kind of experience we want to have, like I do in most places. And I think I found the perfect place. In fact, this is about the perfect place for any of our LiveAway programs, in the sense that what you have here with this hotel complex is a hotel apartment type arrangement. It's very modern, bright, like you can see here. It's not that big. There's only about 60 suites in total, but all of them are divided into different categories. You have studios, you have 1-bedrooms, you have a few 2-bedroom type suites, and they're all situated in a relatively low-rise building, 3 stories, around a beautiful pool area. There's fitness facilities on site. There's a dining room where they serve a served breakfast. They may go back to buffet next year, but because of the restrictions right now, they're actually doing an a la carte served breakfast that's included. The rooms are beautifully designed. Like you see here, this would be like a studio room, all looking out over this pool. And as you can see, the green jungled mountains in the background. They've all come with sort of a living area, even the studios, the 1-bedrooms. The one thing I'll note about the 1-bedrooms, you can sort of see in the picture here, is they have a bit of a funny layout in that the queen size bed is positioned against the wall on one side. So you can only get into bed in the 1-bedrooms from the one side. It's a bit strange. It's not a deal breaker by any means, but it's just a bit of a strange design. But again, the units are really, really comfy, modern. They've got TV, they've got full kitchen facilities. You can see there, they've got a stove, a microwave, a fridge, everything you need so you can be a little bit independent. Because what we're seeing on these LiveAway programs is that, people don't like to go out for big meals all the time. And I'm experiencing this right now in Madeira, right? We typically have our excursions, a nice lunch, which is big, often 3 courses. And by the time dinner rolls around, people just want to warm up some soup or have something small. So you have the ability to do that with these facilities that are in these wonderful suites. So very, very comfortable. We also have a small selection of 2-bedroom garden villas like you see here. So these are like little townhouses where you have a living room and dining room on the ground floor, and then 2 bedrooms with ensuite bathrooms upstairs. Close by and related to the hotel, it's the same owners but a different management, is the beach club. This is the Chi Beach Club, the closest beach to the hotel. You can see the beautiful sand beach. And so all of this is related to the hotel, and you're free to use the facilities with this. They request that people that you consume something, so it's not like it's part of the hotel. When you're there, you order a sandwich, you order some drinks, and you can enjoy the wonderful, luxurious beach facilities. But of course, you can do that at any of the places. There's many little resorts along the beach. Some of them are very Thai style. Some of them are a little bit more modern. Some of them are very, very modestly priced. Some of them are a little bit more upscale. So you have a wide selection of stuff that you can do. So this Chi Beach Club is more upscale type of an environment. It's really lovely, as you can see here. And this is a 10-minute walk from the hotel. Across the street from there, we have, again, a small selection of our luxury villas, which are close to the beach. So as I say, the main complex is about 10-minute walk. This is across the street from the beach club. And here we have luxurious 2-bedroom suites that are very comfortable. Some of them come with a sea view, and that's an option as well for folks that want to be right close to the beach in 2-bedroom accommodations. But there aren't many of those available. We're trying to secure as many as we can. As we come out of this coronavirus situation, the demand for travel is intense. So we're going to go from having 2 years of no travel and no business, and the hotels being empty, to everything being jam-packed full. That's what the future is looking like in travel. But nevertheless, we'll be there. We'll make sure we get you accommodated. Let's talk about what a typical day looks like on a LiveAway in Thailand. So what you might do is you'll probably get up at whatever time you feel like it in the morning, unless we have an excursion, in which case we'll have you out the door by at 9 or before 9 for some of our longer excursions. You'll have breakfast at the hotel. We will have a little mini bus that's available on a certain schedule to bring people to some of the other beaches on the island, like Chaweng or over to Mai Nam. We might have beach walks arranged. We might do little excursions up into the jungles to do some hikes. We, of course, and I'll talk about some of the excursions in a minute, have all the excursions that are organized that you can book into at your choice. So you kind of can do whatever it is that you like. But if you're either booked on an excursion where you'll be out for part of the day or maybe the whole day, or otherwise you might do your own thing. You might wander down and relax at the beach for a little while. You might, as I say, go and pick up something at the big Central Festival shopping mall. there's no shortage of sort of things to keep you busy, but at the same time, you also have lots of time to relax. You'll probably have lunch out somewhere, and I'll talk about food in a minute. In the afternoon, maybe you'll come back and go for a massage in the on-site spa area. Thailand is very well known for wellness and again, I'll talk a little bit about wellness and massages in just a second. And then in the evening, again, we'll have organized outings to restaurants that are a driving distance away, but there's also a whole bunch that you can walk to on the beach, off the beach, every cuisine under the sun. Within walking distance of the restaurant, you have numerous, obviously, Thai restaurants, but you've also got French and Lebanese and Italian and pizza and steak and everything that you could possibly imagine. So it's all really right there. Talking about spa and wellness, Thailand is, of course, known. I mean, we've all heard of a Thai massage before. It's known for its wellness, and there are a lot of places to go, but you don't even have to leave the hotel. We haven't finalized it yet, but likely we'll have a special arrangement for those wanting to have a massage or another procedure at the hotel facilities. But here's the funny thing is that you can go to the beach in, you know, a little bit more sort of a basic environment, but you can have a wonderful Thai massage, strong or not so strong, for around $15. If you go to some of the nicer places, including in the hotel, you might spend $25 or $30. But I mean, if you think about that in comparison to what we pay for massage treatments back home, it is an absolute bargain. And generally, it's always an amazing, a blissful experience. So I know people that come to Thailand and go for a massage every single day, because that's just part of the experience of being in Thailand. So as I mentioned, we've got a whole bunch of different activities to choose from and excursions. I'm going to give you a small sampling of these, and I'm going to start off by talking about, actually, no, I'll talk about those at the end. So our pre and post program. So let me give you a sense of some of the things that we might do during the day. So again, we've got a list of excursions that we currently have organized. Depending on the size of the group, how many people decide to come along, we've got a whole bunch of other ideas to do. So one of the highlights of things for people visiting this archipelago, including Koh Samui, is a trip to Ang Thong Marine Park. It's a national park, a UNESCO site, because you have these incredible protected islands with cliffs that rise right out of the sea. We'll drive around, do snorkeling. You can climb up some of these mountains. There are lakes embedded in some of the islands as well. Monkeys abound, beautiful white sand beach, turquoise water. It's an amazing day outing, and certainly one of the most popular things that I think probably everybody would do. We might also go down by a longtail boat. Those are those wooden boats with the motor that comes off the back that makes a lot of noise. It's a traditional Thai fishing boat. And we go down on the south side of Koh Samui and visit what they call Pig Island, where there's actually a colony of pigs. I wish I could say that they're wild. I don't think they're wild anymore. They're sort of partly domesticated that live on this island amongst the people enjoying the beach. And you get a little bit of a taste of what sort of local Thai culture is all about and why these pigs reside on this island. We'll also make a day trip by speedboat up to Koh Tao. That's the island I mentioned that's part of the archipelago. It's the dive capital, if you will, of Thailand. And we'll go and circle right around the island of Koh Tao. It's not very big in our boat, and we'll stop here at Koh Nang Yuan that you see in the picture, where they have some of the best snorkeling you'll find in all of Thailand. Incidentally as well, and I remember a couple of members asked last year about diving, and yes, we can organize dive trips as well, because there's some great dive spots that you can reach from Koh Samui on a day outing on a dive boat. We'll do other little things on the water, like a sunset cruise by catamaran. So the pier is not far again from our hotel. It's about a 5-minute drive, and we can head out and watch the beautiful sunset that Thailand is so known for. I, of course, like to involve members in a little bit of local culture and tradition and so on. And so we have a couple of different culinary courses. Thai cuisine is known around the world. We've all eaten in a Thai restaurant, some of us frequently, me all the time. And it's so great to be able to learn how they make these dishes because they're actually remarkably similar, simple to do. And you'll find when you go home, you can actually find a lot of the ingredients in the grocery store if you actually know what to look for. So we'll drive up into the mountains. We have a wonderful farm where they do these cooking courses, and you can see actually some of the vegetables, how they're grown, where they come from, and then prepare them some of the delicious Thai dishes. I'll make one point on here because I think a lot of people think that Thai cuisine is super hot and spicy, and that's certainly the case in Thailand for Thai people, but a lot of Thai cuisine can be reduced in heat, so there's almost no spice at all. So you can enjoy most of the dishes in Thailand without having to worry that they're going to burn your tongue off. We'll also visit the island that I call home, called Koh Phangan. It's a beautiful island that is still 2/3 all nature reserve, so it's protected. We'll go around part of the island in a longtail. We'll go with a naturalist who will walk around with us and explain us some of the jungle species that they use in traditional medicines and also in some of their cooking there. So we'll get a bit of a taste of Koh Phangan. It's easy to access because a ferry goes frequently from, again, nearby where our hotel is, and it just takes 30 minutes to get across. And from there, I suspect people will probably want to make a couple of visits over to Koh Phangan during our stay. Thailand is, of course, well known for Buddhism. I mean, it is the primary religion in Thailand, and they have incredible temples, including in Koh Samui. Talking too fast, I'm going to lose my voice. So that we'll have a tour. Hopefully, if he's available and not doing his rounds, we'll have a tour with a Buddhist monk at least one or a couple of the very ornate temples like that you see here. Excuse me, and we will get a bit of an insight into the rituals of the Buddhist monks of Thailand. A lot of the young men of Thailand actually go and at some point in their life, and they actually go through the course, the ritual of becoming a monk. Several friends of mine live in Thailand have done that, and it's really quite an amazing experience and how they evolve as human beings. So visiting the temples is great. Thailand is known for its markets, and so over at Mai Nam Beach, not far away, they have a terrific, that's Bang Rak Beach as well. They have a terrific weekend market where they have all of the stands with, locally produced products and gadgets and all kinds of different things. So it's something we'll definitely wander over and do, and have dinner at one of the beachside restaurants as a big group, and look out over the sea and out at Koh Phangan. And it'll be a nice activity that we can do as a larger group, and have some fun. Golf is also an option. There's 2 golf courses on the island, but one in particular is a championship course, is really, really good. So we'll have a special golf package available for any members that want to go. Not even necessary to bring your clubs. You can rent good equipment there, and you can go with a cart or caddies. And so we'll definitely organize golf for those. And of course, the views across the Gulf are really quite terrific there. So let's talk a bit about weekends and getaways from Koh Samui. We're there for a whole month, so we have an option to do a couple of different things. So first of all, before you arrive or at the end of the trip, it's probably worth to spend a couple of days in Bangkok. And you probably heard about Bangkok, and it has certainly a very colored reputation. But it is a city that's worth visiting, particularly the main palace and the main temple there that you actually can see in the picture in the bottom right, that are all done in beautiful ornate gold, gilded gold sculptures and so on. It's phenomenal. A trip along the Chao Phraya River that you see. Bangkok is worth spending a couple of nights. In fact, I almost recommend doing it on the way in. It's a good place. There's some magnificent hotels that we will have a short stay packages on that you can stay and catch up on your jet lag, but also get a taste of what this bustling metropolis of over 10 million people is all about. So Bangkok is something I would definitely consider either on the way there or on the way back. While we're in Koh Samui, or you could also do it as an extension at the end or in the beginning. It's worth to visit Chiang Mai. Chiang Mai is a magnificent city. It's about an hour flight north of Bangkok in the northwestern part of the country. And you have the rolling hills. The weather is a bit cooler, particularly in January. So it's a lovely time to visit this countryside. And the city itself is a square with some of the most concentrated density, I guess, of temples that you'll find anywhere certainly in Thailand, if not of Southeast Asia. And so it's a walkable city. You can walk around in the inner city, but you can also head out into the countryside and get a sense of the jungles and the rolling green hills of Thailand. It's beautiful, beautiful country. I was there for a few days during the pandemic while I was in Thailand. Another popular trip for a couple of nights is to head out. It's a couple of hours drive from the mainland ferry terminal near Koh Samui, and that's Khao Sok National Park. People compare this to Gui Linh or Ha Long Bay in Vietnam. Again, you get these incredible mountains that rise out of the lake, and the lake is actually man-made. It was dammed up. Lake Ratchaprapa is what it's called. It was dammed up for hydroelectric purposes about 30 years ago, and the result is an incredible national park. It's got floating resorts on it, and it's a very different dynamic, a different feel than what you'll find on the seaside places like Koh Samui. So we'll definitely do a trip over to Khao Sok. And then finally, Singapore, which is only an hour flight, barely an hour flight away from Koh Samui. In fact, it's closer, slightly closer to Singapore than it is to Bangkok. So it's close by. And if you haven't visited Singapore, you've certainly heard of it. A modern, bustling city, super clean, incredible buildings, incredible dining. It's a very international city and worth to spend a couple of days. And for those that are considering continuing on to Bali, for example, a great in-between stop, because it's a gateway as well. You can fly from Singapore directly into Bali and from Koh Samui directly to Singapore. So this is a great stop, and we'll be putting together a stopover program there for those that are going to take a couple of nights in between Koh Samui and Bali. So I'll go through some of the additional information. All of this is in the brochure, which if you haven't already gotten it, you're going to get it very, very soon, together with a replay of this webinar to give you a sense of the pricing. So you'll see the prices are similar to what we had last year. They've gone up just a little bit because, of course, of inflationary pressures around the world. But I think for a month stay, it represents really good value. So I won't go through all this. You can find the information in the brochure itself, but all of the inclusions are here. So we're staying for a whole month, 29 nights to be exact. The important thing is the activity credit. So all of those excursions I was talking about, you have $1,000 per person activity credit that's included in the program that you can use towards all the different excursions. So people ask, well, how far does that go? Actually, it covers probably 2/3, depending on which excursions you choose, 2/3 to 3/4 of all the excursions that you could do. And here's the thing is, if for some reason you decide, I want to have more of a chill holiday and I don't want to do so much, and you don't spend the $1,000, well, first of all, you can use it for any of the hotel expenses when you're there. So if you decide to do a whole bunch of massages or any other thing activity or excursion that we might do while we're in Thailand. And if you still don't use it up at the end, I will give you the balance back. So the whole point is it's there to be used and enjoyed, but it's your money, not ours. And so you can use that however you want. The transportation will be included for all the excursions. And as I mentioned, we'll have a vehicle that is doing shuttle service to different points around the island. So you won't feel like you're stuck there at any time. We'll give you a SIM card. This is something we've been doing on a lot of our trips now, like here. So you've got a lot of mobile data. We set up all these groups so you can connect with other members, so we can find you if you get lost. It's really, really handy to have. So that's part of what we do. And again, all the excursions and so on. And we will have a host, probably a couple of hosts, who will be looking after you from the moment you arrive until the moment you leave. And I think a question that may come up that I know some members had asked who were booking the trip. Well, of course, the dinners aren't included in this because we want you to go out and be able to choose what you want to eat for dinner. There is a whole range of dining available. And so you can go out for dinner if you want to have a fairly basic Thai meal, whether it's a red curry or a Penang or a Masaman or a Pad Thai or Tom Yum soup or all the delicious dishes they have in Thailand. You can eat at a local Thai restaurant, perfectly safe and healthy, for like $5 to $10, and you will be stuffed. If you want to have more traditional Western food at sort of a mid-range restaurant, you're going to probably spend $15, $20, maybe as much as $30. But there are also some incredible top-end restaurants on the island where you could spend upwards of $40, $50 and more dollars. But compared to what dining is at home, it's really a fraction of the cost. So it's not going to break your budget. Of course, you also have the option to cook in your room if you so wish, because sometimes we just don't need to eat all that food all the time. The one thing I'll say about Thailand, beer and soft drinks are relatively inexpensive compared to at home. Wine is the only thing, because wine is not part of local Thai tradition. So wine is all imported, and it's relatively expensive. It's not much more expensive than in Canada, but the quality of what you get compared to what we get for the price doesn't quite match up. So if you enjoy your wine, it's it's a little bit expensive. As I say, it's actually not much more than it is in Canada. But of course, compared to here in Europe, Canadian drinking wine in Canada is very expensive. The only things that are excluded from our program are, of course, airfare and air taxes. And we can, of course, assist you with your flights and insurance, and that's about it. Everything that you need is there. Talking about airfare, I mentioned about how to get there. It's a bit premature to be looking into flights again because the routes are not all there yet. But as soon as we start to see them emerge, it will be a good time to buy. We put here a range from Toronto, $1,400 to $1,600. Actually, at the moment, it's still quite a bit less than that. You can still get to Thailand to Koh Samui for $1,200, $1,300. But you never know with the demand for travel that is going to come back. I expect that we're going to be in this range realistically, a little bit less, of course, if you're coming from the West Coast of Canada. For anyone that decides to join us before the end of April, though, I will be granting an additional early booking bonus. So you'll get additional activity credit of $250. You'll get $1,250. So really that'll cover most of the day trips and excursions that I mentioned. And so that's for anybody that signs up in the near future. I suspect, quite honestly, that most of those who booked with us last year want to come back. At least that's what I've been hearing. And so frankly, our biggest challenge is going to be getting enough rooms, but that's my problem, not yours. So if you're interested in coming along, let me know. And so now I think I can address some questions. I'm sure there are a bunch out there, and Joel is going to help me out by seeing what questions that we have. Let's see here. Okay, so we have a question about are there snakes in Thailand? Yes, Dave, there are definitely snakes in Thailand, but you don't see any. And I remember we had this question before. Thailand is full of snakes, including cobras. But the reality is they don't come into the built up areas or very, very seldom. So those pictures that sometimes people post on Instagram are that happens very, very seldom that you actually see any snakes in Thailand. James asked, is it rainy season in January? Good question. So The rainy season in the Gulf of Thailand actually ends sometime in the end of December to mid-January. Occasionally it goes a little bit longer, but usually by the middle of January, it's pretty much done. So that's why we've actually moved the trip back a week from when we were going to go last year. We moved the trip back by a week. So it is possible that you could still get a rainstorm, but what happens in the rainy season is that you might get a thunder cloud, a rain shower for about an hour or so, and then it's over, and then it's done with, and then it cools off and it goes back. So I was there this year from through the whole month of January and hardly saw any rain at all. So how warm is the sea? Good question as well. The sea is like soup. It's maybe not that warm. Actually, January is a great time because of the end of the rainy season. It's still on the cooler side, but it's still about 26 to 28 degrees. And so don't worry, it's not cold at all. It is absolutely gorgeous. In fact, to cool off, it's better to go in the pool because the sea can be quite warm. Then Teresa asked, is it worth renting a car there? You could. I don't generally recommend it for North Americans. First of all, they drive on the left in Thailand like they do in the UK. And second of all, they drive a little bit mad. And so if you're not used to the feeling of it, it's not ideal to rent a car. It's possible. And if you're comfortable, you could certainly do it. And we would point you in the right direction to do that. But we're covering most of the island on our excursions. And so it's probably not worth it. You don't really want the stress. Vicky asked, what are the dates for the 3 trips? So I don't have the exact dates in front of me, Vicky, but they are basically back to back. So the Thailand trip, as we mentioned here, is from January 13th to February 11th. Bali will be February 13th, if I'm not mistaken, until roughly March the 13th as well. And then New Zealand will be March the 15th until roughly April the 15th. We're just finalizing the New Zealand program now, and that'll be released in a few weeks' time. And so Lynn asked, when does the trip start? It starts on January the 13th in Thailand. So that means you need to leave Canada on roughly January the 11th because you lose a day when you cross over the international date line. Rick asked, how much duty-free liquor can you bring into Koh Samui from Bangkok? Well, it's you can only bring duty-free in from Canada because between Bangkok and Koh Samui is not duty-free anymore. You're technically allowed 1 bottle. To be perfectly honest, I used to bring 4 or 5 because they don't really check you that often, but that's not my official answer. You're officially allowed 1 bottle, yeah, bring as much as you can carry. Randy asked, when do we need to book and is money refundable if COVID is still a problem? Well, you need to book probably sooner than later because I have a feeling this program is going to be full. Here's my policy on that. We, like with everything that happened this year, we ended up having to cancel a trip in the beginning of November because of COVID was still an issue, which was well past the date of which the cancellation penalties would normally apply, and everybody got all their money back. So my official policy is what we have in our terms and conditions. We do that because we do have to pay deposits to the hotels and our partners to secure all the services. And this year more than ever, because otherwise we won't be able to get the space. If COVID really becomes a problem again, we always have a so-called force majeure clause in, which says if we can't get there because of travel restrictions relating to COVID, in pretty much all cases, we're going to be able to get our money back. Here's where you have to have a little bit of faith that we are going to do whatever we can in your interest. I am not here to try to keep anybody's money if we can't go. But it's a bit of a balancing act because we have to commit monies in order to be able to hold space. And this year, more so than ever. I do recommend cancellation insurance because you just never know. But as I say, my commitment is that we're going to act in best possible way for our members. Good. Well, I think I flew through all that. I see it is 11:40 in Eastern time. I'm sure there's probably other questions that you have. You will get all the information in the new brochure that's going to get released with the webinar replay tomorrow. And then we have another additional information document, and we will be releasing as well the details on all the excursions. All that stuff is coming together. Then if you're interested, you can just drop a note to Paula and request a booking form, and she will get back to you as soon as possible, but probably not till next week because she is on a much needed day off. Thank you for joining us. I hope you'll consider coming along to, was there another question in here? Randy, okay, I think we answered that question. I hope you'll consider joining us next year in Thailand. We're going to have a wonderful time, and I look forward to welcoming you. And yeah, it's a fantastic destination. Join us next week for our LiveAway webinar on Bali. That's the program that follows. So there you go. It's February 17th to the 11th of April. So there's a couple of days in between, which gives time to go to Singapore. Sorry, actually, I don't think. Sorry, February 17th is the date of the webinar. Yeah, there you go. See, I mean, February 17th is the date of the webinar. That's next Thursday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. Join us, find out about Bali. Maybe you want to do both trips. Let's see what happens. In the meantime, have yourselves a great week. Think of us over here in Madeira, and we'll catch up with you again very soon.